It was never American skills to survive in teepees. Exactly, Europeans called them primitive. Yet these women-built cones redirected gale force winds, stored heat brilliantly, and flexed without breaking, outperforming nailed wooden homes that shatter in storms. Shocking how we erased superior engineering that saved nations. This dismissed knowledge is fading fast. Reclaim the truth most history hides now. What kept people alive here was never luck or brute strength. It was a system so efficient that it outperformed modern buildings in extreme cold, yet today it's dismissed as primitive. Once you understand how this design worked, it completely changes how you see survival, engineering, and intelligence itself. Before we go further, answer this in the comments without overthinking it. Do you believe ancient survival knowledge is still relevant today, or has modern technology replaced it? In this video, you'll see how one structure solved wind, snow, heat, and mobility at the same time, and why forgetting this knowledge costs more than we realize. The teepee was never meant to be comfortable in the modern sense. It was not built to impress visitors, to decorate land, or to signal status. It was built for one purpose only: to keep people alive in places where winter actively tries to kill you. Comfort, as we define it today, was a side effect, not the goal. Survival came first. Every curve, seam, and opening came from watching nature closely and responding to it intelligently. Long before blueprints, calculations, or engineering textbooks existed, the people of the plains understood wind, snow, heat, and movement at an instinctive level. They learned by living inside storms, by losing shelters that failed, and by refining what worked. The teepee was not invented in a moment. It evolved over centuries through trial, error, and memory passed from one generation to the next. Each storm became a lesson. Each winter sharpened the design. Knowledge was carried not in books, but in hands, stories, and muscle memory. A design that failed disappeared. A design that worked survived, just like the people themselves. The conical shape was not aesthetic. It was strategic. Wind does not slam into a cone the way it attacks flat walls. It cannot find a surface to push against. Instead, it splits and flows around the structure, losing force as it moves. Snow behaves the same way. On steep slopes, it does not accumulate. It slides down and away under its own weight, while square cabins and flat roofs trap snow until beams snap and walls fail. The teepee simply sheds the load again and again. Even during blizzards, the structure remains calm, almost indifferent. That single geometric choice reduced heat loss, minimized structural stress, and allowed the teepee to survive conditions that would flatten modern shelters built with more wood, more tools, and far less understanding. Nature was not resisted, it was redirected. The shape worked with physics instead of fighting it, which is why it endured. What surprises most people is who built these homes. It was the women, not as helpers, as the primary designers, builders, and engineers. They understood materials deeply because their families depended on it. They knew which poles bent without snapping, which hides sealed best, and how spacing affected airflow. The frame always began with 3 poles tied into a tripod. This was not symbolic, it was physics. 3 points create inherent stability. From that base, additional poles were added in a specific sequence, each one leaning into the others, distributing weight evenly around the circle. The result was a structure that was strong but never stiff. The teepee was designed to move. In high winds, it flexed slightly instead of resisting. That movement absorbed force and prevented breakage. Modern engineers still pursue this principle in skyscrapers and bridges, often without realizing it was mastered long ago by people working with wood, sinew, and intuition. The outer skin came from buffalo hides, and those hides were treated with extraordinary care. They were softened and preserved using brain oils and natural fats, making them waterproof while still breathable. Rain stayed out. Moisture from cooking and breathing escaped. In winter, a second inner lining was added, creating a sealed chamber between layers. This trapped dead air, which is the most effective insulator known. The same principle exists today in thermal jackets and double wall construction, yet it was applied perfectly using nothing but animal hides and experience. Heat stayed inside. Condensation stayed controlled. Warmth was conserved instead of chased. The lodge breathed slowly, maintaining balance between dryness and warmth. Snow was never packed thoughtlessly against the hide. Direct contact would cause moisture buildup and rot. Instead, snow was carefully banked around the base, leaving a small gap for airflow. This created insulation without damaging the structure. In colder regions, dried grass or reeds were placed between layers, further increasing heat retention. These materials added almost no weight but dramatically reduced heat loss. Every adjustment had a reason. Nothing was decorative. Nothing was wasted. Each choice reflected deep familiarity with seasons, materials, and limits. Fire placement was exact. It sat at the center, not for tradition, but for efficiency. Fresh air entered at ground level beneath the liner, flowed toward the fire, fed it oxygen, warmed instantly, and rose. Smoke exited through adjustable flaps at the top, which could be angled based on wind direction. Even without wind, the temperature difference created enough draw to keep smoke moving. This natural chimney system worked reliably, quietly, and safely. Modern heating engineers still study it, trying to replicate its efficiency with machines, fans, and sensors that still struggle to match what this simple system achieved. Heat itself was treated as something to store, not burn through. Stones were heated and placed beneath sleeping areas, releasing warmth slowly through the night. Embers were preserved carefully so fire could be restarted quickly. Fire itself could be transported, sealed, and protected, allowing camps to move without losing life-sustaining heat. Warmth traveled with the people, not the other way around. Clothing worked with the shelter, not separately from it. Buffalo robes were worn fur-side inward, trapping air close to the body. Layers created insulation zones that allowed people to work outdoors for hours in temperatures that would disable modern equipment. Movement was preserved. Dexterity mattered. Clothing was light where it needed to be and heavy where it counted. Nothing was bulky without purpose. Food followed the same logic. Pemmican was not just nourishment. It was survival chemistry. Fat, protein, and energy condensed into a form that could last for months. Storage pits used frozen ground as natural refrigeration long before electricity existed. Nothing spoiled. Nothing was excessive. Every calorie had a job. Tipis were arranged in circles, entrances facing east, away from prevailing winds. This was not ceremony alone. It created a shared windbreak. Inside the circle, air slowed. Heat accumulated. Community mattered. Body heat, shared space, and collective design allowed one small fire to warm many lives. Inside, it could feel almost like spring while the world outside froze solid. This was not survival through domination over nature. It was survival through alignment with it. The people did not fight the wind. They let it pass. They did not trap snow. They let it fall. They did not force heat. They guided it. The land did not resist them. because they listened. In a quiet way, the teepee reminds us that intelligence does not always look like technology. Sometimes it looks like restraint. Sometimes it looks like patience. And sometimes it looks like knowing when to step aside and let the world do what it already knows how to do. The uncomfortable truth is this: humanity already solved extreme survival long before modern tools existed. The teepee wasn't primitive. It was precise. It wasn't fragile. It was adaptive. And it wasn't temporary thinking. It was intelligence passed down through centuries of listening to the land instead of fighting it. When we forget knowledge like this, we don't just lose history. We lose perspective on what real innovation looks like. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments, tell me this: what part of the teepee design changed how you think about survival or engineering? And if you want more stories that uncover forgotten systems, ancient intelligence, and the ideas modern design quietly borrows from, subscribe. Because the most advanced solutions are often the ones we've already proven work, and the next one might change how you see the world just as much.